the following way. First, I'm going to call you up, and everyone's going to group, holler and everything. And then you will receive your award from Dean Parker, and you'll take a photo op with our featured author, Gugi Wantiomo. And my name is Professor Vasquez, by the way. And so I'd like to begin with the poetry. My phone just went. Okay. Sharon Marie Nunez. Already mentioned. Congratulations. Already mentioned poetry, Ana Maria Vasquez. And come get your voucher. We have it organized in a wonderful way, Trish. First, we're going to give the awards, and then you're going to get up in a row and read from your poetry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Honorable mention in poetry, book voucher, Lucila Marquez. Very excited. Thank you. Honorable mention poetry, Rebecca Laurent. First place winner of the Robert Meeker Memorial Writing Contest in poetry, Shanna K. Allen. Our winner in short fiction, first place, Robert Meeker Memorial Writing Contest, Wendy Rhodes. so proud to announce one of my students. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't part of the judging contest, so I wasn't one of the judges, so I can say that. We're proud of all of you, of course. I will mention in nonfiction, Angela Marie Theodore. And the first place winner of the nonfiction, Robert Meeker Memorial Writing Contest, Moses Lackham. So now we're in for the big treat. Our students reading from their wonderful work. And so we all just kick back, get some coffee, and I'm just going to announce them. We're going to begin with poetry. Sharon Unions. Please welcome.
Good evening. The title of my poem is Remonstration. Shadows surround and encase the soul. The countdown of phases takes its toll. 1, then 2, then 3 they come, and when complete, they've done their role. The crows are near, I hear them hum, as they swoop down for a glance at chum. Irreversible damage is clearly near, with no foreseeable withdrawal to come. Days gone by now seem so clear, as the empire grew ever near. He faced them with nonviolent dignity, like I do now in this current year. They ask me with false sincerity to stop my protest for all to see. I say I can't until they flee the land I love so desperately.
Ana Maria Vasquez. Did you bring the Spanish version? So what? Nice.
Hello everyone, good evening. The title of my poem is Sugarcane Dreams. I will not have sugarcane planted in soggy grounds of standing waters. My roots, like sugarcane, stretch deep into the rich soil I call home, soil of possibilities. My dreams, mis sueños, are like sugarcane. Now speak English, go back. I will not. Sugarcane, my dream, is so ripe, standing so tall, reaching the sun, ready to be harvested and brought about to all. Go back, leave this land. I will not. Sugarcane is mature, but still, a few sharp leaves left cutting and penetrating deeply. Go back, I will not. Thank you.
Lucila Marquez.
Good evening. The title of my Sistina is How the Slave Hippolyta Saves the Liberator Simon Bolivar. It's a Sistina poem. In Caracas, Venezuela, in this spacious bedroom, in this splendorous master house, in this exquisite fine linen dress for queen, in this embroidered silk diapers rack, and in hungry desperation cries this newborn. In sadness, dark women whisper the news while self-checking the memory remains. These lucky slaves do household chores at the Bolivar's home, which is far from the several plantations of this family. Suddenly, the master gives an order. Look, Alessio, go to plantation El Ingenio and bring Negra Hippolyta to breastfeed little Simon in crib. That's how Hippolyta's healthy breast milk saves this infant. Eventually, while breastfeeding, Simon gazes into the eyes of Hippolyta and both build involvement. But misfortune seems determined to keep Simon's future bare. 2 years later, Yellow's grave robs him of his father. However, Hippolyta's bosom food, tender lullabies, and in-held walks strengthen his toddler. But again, after 6 more years, his mother is being taken to her final abode. Simon becomes so unruly that foster parents have to return him to his home crib. Determined to help Simon to face his lugubrious fate, Negra Hippolyta look at Simon in the eye and tells him, "My son, you not be no afraid as long as this Negra breathes. Behold, I'm with you. You slayer at El Ingenio, 12 years old, Simon is about to unveil the hidden reason for Hippolyta's 2 milk cascades. Thomas is Simon's riding trainer, who instead of a gold crib, sleeps in a hammock, but is rich enough to lend Simon his mother's breast milk. Instead of living in the splendorous master house, Thomas has grown up in a slave cabin. His diapers were rough, but he was nursed richly by Manny Brown's mother when he was a baby. In a few weeks, Simon becomes an excellent writer and a friend of Hippolyta's biological offspring. 7 years later, 19 years old, Simon traveled to Spain. He marries his love at first sight, Maria Teresa. This is his first and only wedding. However, adversity to wedding remains in Simon's life. A few months later, his wife's life is also rolled away. Hippolyta's maternal care strengthens his spirit by showing him comprehension from her heart. In trying to overcome his deep sadness, Simon changes his ambience by leaving his cradle and coming to Europe. Here, he finds his real destiny of liberating his homeland from Spain. No parents, no wife or children, hence he put all his passion into getting his baby independence. At Monte Sacro, Italy, Simon, on solemn oath, from the bottom of his heart, expresses, I swear on my parents' God, on them, on my homeland, and on my honor, that I will not rest until I have seen that I have broken the oppressive chains that rule my home country only for the monarchic imposition that dwells beyond the sea in Paris. And so he does, primarily thanks to Hippolyta's breast milk that nurtured Simon when he was in Crete. From general quarters, when fighting his military battles for 6 countries' incipient independence, Simon looks after his mother Hippolyta with a life annuity. All her needs are covered. Thank you.
Simon Bolivar was a grand liberator of South America. And there's always a competition among Argentinians and Venezuelans, so we claim General San Martin did it. So we'll discuss that later over coffee. Arnold mentioned poetry, Rebecca Laurent.
Good evening, everyone. The title of my poem is Creation. As each day passes, a milestone is met, an intimate view of a life ahead. but does not know what he will face yet. Burdens a mother chose to bear instead. He kicks and punches for a way outside, sucking the life out of her tender womb. The different needs must meet and collide, being nurtured in a gentle cocoon. The body is stretched to its maximum, resists the force as he makes his descent. Catching his breath in the interim, a mother determined not to relent. A familiar stranger makes his debut. A life begins, and old is made anew. Thank you.
First place poetry, Shanna K. Allen.
Good evening, everyone. I wrote a villanelle, and for those of you who don't know, it's a 19-line poem, so it has a set of rhyming lines. So when you hear the rhyme, you know that it's a villanelle. And it opens with an epigraph from Weep Not Child, which I thought fit perfectly with the theme, and seeing that we have the esteemed author here. And the epigraph reads, "Unless you kill, you'll be killed. So you go on killing and destroying. It's the law of nature. The fields of black are now our home, on which we know no cheer, for all is lost when freedom roams. The man of white's incessant moan sounds his way of being aware. The fields of black are now our home. Days in rows we toil and soil, only to be shackled back into fear, for all is lost when freedom roams. But now we stare at the moon's first gleam, and rid ourselves of this fact so clear. The fields of black are now our home. With every march, the uprising's groans grows bitter still, the white man's land we steer, for all is lost when freedom roams. Our blood flows one with the loam where fields of keen once stood, the land is clear. This failure hinders us from our own, the fields of black are now our home. Thank you.
And now our creative nonfiction category, honorable mention, Angela Deloy.
Good evening, everybody. The title of my piece is One World, Many Colors. Powell Academy, named after the well-known Adam Peyton Powell Jr., it was a predominantly black school. Ulysses and I don't look the same by far, but in the eyes of those children, we were both white, though neither of us is Caucasian. Ulysses is full-blown Filipino, with beautiful straight black hair and big brown eyes that are indeed very Asian-looking, and a very fair complexion. I, on the other hand, am biracial, half Puerto Rican and half African American. I have medium length, dark brown, extremely curly hair, really dark, almost black eyes, and as far as my complexion, I look like a typical Puerto Rican, but slightly darker because of my father's skin tone. With that being said, you would think that we couldn't be mistaken for being full-on white, but you are wrong, so wrong. When a question was asked in class, everyone looked at the white girl because she just had to know the answer. I was picked on for being smart and liking to read books in my spare time. I did my homework and I turned it in when it was due. But most importantly, I spoke very well, even at a young age, thanks to my parents, and that didn't help the racism at all. They all thought I spoke the way I did just to show off, which was not the case. My mother always told me that an educated woman was something to fear, so my parents gave me books way past my age level. They made me write constantly, and I knew how to speak 2 languages rather than 1. His name was Adam. He had blonde hair, bright blue eyes, always wore camouflage, and was a hunter with a country accent. I found him attractive. That is, until I found out he was a full-blown racist. I liked him, but he didn't like me. This became evident that very day. It started with nowhere else for me to take a seat on the bus. He let me sit down, but only to let me know how much he hated niggers and what he wanted to do to me for being one. calling cigarettes, but I thought nothing of it until he opened his mouth and proceeded to say, I effing hate you. You know that? You're a nigger, and all you and your nigger family needs to be hung. He pulled out his switchblade, which we were most definitely not allowed to bring to school, and asked me ever so politely if I wanted my fingers cut off because he wanted to cut them off one by one and watch me bleed out from my fingertips for being a smartass and for being black. Never had I ever been so terrified in my life. But as my adrenaline was rushing, somewhere I found the courage to correct him on his grammar. It's hanged, not hanged.
Honorable mention, creative nonfiction, Sal Sanchez Jr. He will be reading an excerpt from his essay titled Puerto Rican Movement.
Hello, everyone. Alright. Okay, the title of my nonfiction is called The Importance of Language. Here it goes. Being American-born Hispanic forces you into this strange place where other Americans don't exactly consider you American because you're Hispanic, but your Hispanic culture doesn't accept you because you're too American. I grew up with this. I wasn't American according to whatever arbitrary standard I was being compared to, and I definitely wasn't Hispanic. In fact, I remember my cousin in Puerto Rico introducing me to his friends. He never introduced me as a fellow Puerto Rican. He would say, "Es mi primo, el de por allá." Or in other words, "This is my cousin, he's from out there." This lack of acceptance forced my young and angst-ridden teenage self to make a choice. And in retrospect, it wasn't a smart one, but it has molded me into what I am today. Now, senior year, my entire perspective changed. I started to realize how wrong I was. I chose to fight against any Hispanic stereotypes that could be placed on me by essentially ridding myself of my Hispanic identity. I spent years suppressing half of myself, my identity, until eventually I just got tired of it. I started to accept myself for who I was, even if no one else would. I still love speaking English, and I still continued to build my English. But I look back at it now, and I was just a kid, thinking I was being judged by everyone as if my worth had been predetermined by my ethnicity. I failed to see others around me with the same issues, because when you're a teenager, you're the only one that goes through pain. And no one else knows what you're going through, right?
First place winner, short nonfiction, creative nonfiction, Moses Lincoln.
Good night, everyone. The title of my piece is Prejudice, defined in the book of the Night Woman by Marlon James. And it starts off, hostility and separation, outcomes of prejudice, looks not at temporary, but at long-term effects. Homer explains to Lilith that labels were maintained for generations, but self-empowerment could break free of those labels. The Night Woman knew their identity was not in slavery, but rather in their right to be free. But freedom was just a memory to a few and a fantasy to others. Sometime a Negro get tired of white man stomping, so he grabbed the foot, twist and break it, saying, "Enough now." This type of bitter thinking would inevitably kindle in the hearts of the slaves. This fire in them led to unpredictable results, such as the rebellion in 1801, when the Montpelier estate went up in flames, leaving it in ruins. Prejudice shows its true character throughout the book of the Night Woman. Beyond its heavy presence in the 18th century, remnants are evident today. Recently, Michael Dunn, a white man, shot into a car of black teenagers because their music was too loud. We're reminded of Trayvon Martin's demise, all because of his demeanor. Racial prejudice is an ongoing conversation. We must continue sucking out the poison of prejudice until we step out of the circles where every Negro and white man walk. Take that and make of it what you will.
And our first place winner, short fiction, Wendy Rhodes, and she'll be reading next.
Good evening, thank you. I guess I'm just reading the first paragraph because we're short on time. A name can mean so little. My husband is called Aslam, which in Islam means perfect. I sometimes wonder what dreams his mother had when she held her newborn son in her arms and gave him such a beautiful name. Surely she wanted more for him than to be the poor man living in the slums of Orangi town. But dreams blow away like sand across the desert. Gentle sons grow into pious men, and unconditional acceptance of tradition perpetuates life as we know it in Karachi. And that's how it starts.
First, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. First, let me start by congratulating the winners in all the categories, from poetry to prose. It's really great. I'm very excited. Partly because, well, for its own sake, and also because it reminds me of my own journey. And I want to talk just a little bit about that journey. It was important. It started with a prize, which was announced. I was a college student at the time, in my second year, I believe, I'm actually in my second year, literally, when it was announced that there would be an East African novel writing competition. We were poor students then at Meeker, Kampala, Uganda. And one of my friends who was a poet came and said, so much money. Actually, it was about roughly 50 pounds, I think. 50. Yeah, but 50 pounds, yeah. You say for poetry, there are dollars, right? But it's a lot of money put in terms, and it was so much more than we'd ever had as students. And then, so he and I embarked on this. Of course, we are competitors, but we encouraged each other. And that's how I came to write my first novel, which came to be called The River Between. However, I remember when the prizes were announced, it was actually on the occasion of a play I had written called Black Hermit, which was going to be performed, but on the night of its debut, I was going to get the prize for the novel that I submitted. In the meantime, my friend, who had dropped out because when he came to the writer's block, I could not encourage him enough. I didn't have the power, apparently. But when I had a writer's block, he really encouraged me, and I was able to actually listen to his urgings and so on. But so, to the fact he didn't finish, I finished mine, and now a prize was being announced. First prize. So I'm thinking of this money, a lot of money, and I think it came down to when I opened the envelope, I found my manuscript was the best submitted, but not good enough for the first prize. So I only got half then. So I only got half the money, which amounted to about $5 or something anyway. But I'm saying this because sometimes people look down upon prizes as if people write for some aesthetic. But to be very frank, it does not matter what motivates you to write. A prize, encouragement, want to impress your partner, your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, that it can be the motivator. But once you start, of course, the very imagination, the challenge of what you're doing becomes its own reward, if you like. And this was my experience. So the prizes like the one you got today that actually maybe embark on the career of writing. That's why I said this really reminds me of my own journey. And I'm really hoping that now that you got your prize, and even those who would not get their prizes, you have embarked on a very important journey. Please continue. You know, I can tell you from my own experience, I don't know about you, I've never had the pleasure I get out of finishing a short story, a play, or a novel is like nothing else. I've written books of theory, tons of them, which are doing quite well, but none of them has given me the kind of pleasure, the sense of satisfaction I get from a short story finished, or long before it's actually published. The very completing it is itself, such a joy that I really hope you will continue on this journey. And those who did not get the prize, or those who did not actually enter, please realize what I said earlier, that imagination is the greatest equalizer. That's very, very important. As long as your age, or how young, or what the color, or gender, or whatever, is the greatest equalizer. Anybody can in fact imagine. So in that sense, each one of us here has a book, at least one book in yourselves. So let's get those books out. And of those who have embarked, let us, have more and more. Thank you.
He's one of my students, so I made him suffer. So there's food in the back, and thank you for coming, and I hope everyone enjoyed this. And Googie's going to be reading from his Weep Not Child, and also I believe the memoir of Times of War at 7 o'clock. So thank you very much.